Welcome to the Body Peace Podcast, formerly known as Her Story on a Plate. This podcast has always been a space for deep, nuanced conversations about food, body image, and the stories our bodies carry. But as conversations have grown, so has our mission.
That's why this is now the Body Peace Podcast, a name that reflects what we're truly here for, helping you step off the battlefield with your body and move toward more compassion, connection, and ease.
Each episode will bring real, honest dialogue with your hosts, me, I'm Jenny Kramer,
and me, Nina Manolson. We'll also be joined by guests whose personal stories and professional wisdom offer new ways of thinking, feeling, and being in your body.
We're so glad you're here. Welcome to the Body Peace Podcast.
We are thrilled to have Jenny Rushmore with us today. Jenny Rushmore is an innovator in the world of size-inclusive fashion. That's that radical idea that clothes should fit us versus us trying to change our body to fit clothing. Jenny is the founder of Cashmerette, a phenomenal business that empowers sewists with curves to create a dream wardrobe that actually fits. Jenny's also the author of the book Sewing the Curve and Ahead of the Curve. And all of her exquisite work is in service to all of us, feeling truly at ease in our clothing and feeling our best. And you've got to listen to how Jenny and I met. It was wild. Welcome, Jenny. We are so delighted to have you on Her Story on a Plate.
Thank you so much, Nina and Jenny. Lovely to be here.
Well, we have to get something straight here, though. You're Jenny and I'm Jenny, but you are Jenny of the Queen's English. I am Jenny of Queens, New York. Just so, in case they can't tell us apart, I just want to make sure it is really a delight to have you with us. We're really looking forward to this. I think we have to start with how you, Jenny Rushmore, and Nina met, because I think it's a hilarious story. Not that I want to give it away. How did you meet?
Just last week. I was in my favorite restaurant in Boston area, which is called Sama's, very, very good Middle Eastern restaurant, with my friend. And in walked Nina with a friend, I think. I don't really know. I never spoke to the other person. And immediately, my head turned because, I'm in the business of fashion and models and looking for, in inverted commas, real women. It's a bad phrase, but like non-professional women to be models for us. And over the years, I've kind of honed a sense of who would be a good model. It's not actually just like, are you pretty? I mean, obviously, Nina is very pretty, but it's not just that. There's like various different aspects to it. And immediately I was like, oh, I'm going to have to go and speak to that woman. So then I realized that I didn't have any business cards, as always. I scribbled my name on the back of a menu with my heart racing slightly, literally approached Nina at the bar and said, hello. And she looked at me like, who on earth are you? Would you maybe be interested in modeling? And as Nina can test on her side, it's quite funny. She was like, well, only if you were size inclusive. And I was like, well, then the deal is sealed because that is literally what I do. Yeah. So funny thing. And then I realized there must have been some kind of kismet here that I was like, I have to go and talk to that woman.
I know, it was hysterical. When you came up to me, who is this woman?
Of course.
And then you said what you did, that you had a company that created patterns for women. And the first thought was, and then you said, oh, will you model for me?
Mm-hmm.
And at first I laughed hysterically inside because I thought, here I am, a woman who's almost 60, sitting at a bar, being approached and being asked, would you be a model? So I thought that was pretty amusing. But I also was a little bit surprised that my first words out of my mouth were, is your clothing size inclusive? Because it felt...
I was surprised when I heard that too.
Well,
I'm not sure that it would have been my first response.
Yeah. I just thought, well, if I'm going to stand up for somebody's fashion concept, it better be things that women can actually wear. which brings us into this whole conversation that we really want to get into with you, Jenny, which is, how did you start creating clothing for many sized women and being so size diverse?
In some ways, it's sort of a long story. So as I grew up,
we have plenty of time. I'll just put my feet up on the desk. Go ahead. Go for it.
It's a bit dangerous asking me a question because I can go for about 2 hours. So yeah, when I was growing up, I was always on the bigger side. So like higher percentile, just always a bigger person. And I always struggled to find clothes that fit me. And as I got older, I also got this kind of very bodacious bust going on here. I'm an H cup. So even if I could find something in my theoretical clothes size, nothing would actually fit across my boobs unless it was stretchy or it wouldn't fit me. And so for a very long time, that was a huge problem in my life because it actually affected my self-esteem a lot. And it really felt like this arbiter, this measurement by which I was judging myself. It's like, if you can't walk into a shop and find something that fits, then what's wrong with you? You literally don't fit in, right? Like there must be something wrong.
And Jenny, I want to interrupt you right there, because that thought that you expressed so well, which is, what's wrong with me? I'm the problem. Jenny and I hear all the time, right? What's wrong with me that I don't fit?
Exactly. And at the time, I wasn't even very conscious of this. I think it was just deep in me. Like I didn't even realize how bad it was until it changed, if you see what I mean. So then, life went on, and it was a real struggle because not only couldn't I find things to fit, but I'm like kind of a big personality. I like bright colors. I like prints. I'm, quite a bold person. You can't find that in plus sizes, like especially not in the 90s and early 2000s. It just didn't exist. So it was this very suppressing and negative thing. Like I felt like clothes were making me feel bad about myself effectively. And time went on. I just kind of accepted it. But I've always done creative things. I've always been artistic. And so I was going through a breakup when I was 30. And I thought, I need to just do a new hobby. So I decided to learn to sew. So I learned to sew. And almost immediately, I had my first revelation, which was just like, oh, like maybe I could sew my clothes. And it was like, that's really interesting. So I started trying to learn. And then I hit the same problem as with ready-to-wear clothes, is that sewing patterns didn't come in my size either. And just for perspective, I'm a size 14, 16, which is the literal average size of a woman in America. And I was lucky if I was the biggest size in a sewing pattern. And also, at that point, 100% of sewing patterns were made for a B cup. Now, there's nothing wrong with being a B cup, but the average woman is a double D. So it's very, very far off what the average woman's bra size is. So I learned how to change the patterns, right? You can physically take a sewing pattern and you can slice it up and you can move the lines. And all of a sudden, that was my big, it's sort of like a before and an after in my life. Because the big revelation that I had is that I didn't have to change my body to fit my clothes. I could literally change the clothes to fit my body. That there was nothing wrong with my body.
Can you just say that, whoa.
Yeah.
Say that about 5 times and much slower, because we want everybody in the back to hear that one.
Yeah. Well, at this point, I've literally written books on this topic. But yeah, so I realized there was nothing wrong with my body. There was something wrong with the clothes. And the more I learned about fitting and bodies, and now I've fitted, thousands of people, it's all of us. You don't even have to be plus size to have these challenges. What we found in our research is that 80% of women are different sizes at the bust, waist, and hip.
Okay, so hold on one second. Hold on. Because you are throwing down a lot of important information for us to assimilate into our brain that has been trained to believe that our body should be a certain size, fit into certain proportions. Because what you're saying is, the reality is, what was the statistic?
80%.
80%.
And that's in our research. Who knows? Maybe it's higher in the grand outside world. But for me, my boobs are I don't even know what, a size 24 or something, if you just measure them, even if the rest of me is a 14 or a 16. And when you think about it, it's not some conspiracy against people like me. It's just that we are snowflakes, right? Everyone has totally different proportions. And to me, bodies are just geometry now, right? So it very much neutralized how I felt. What I say now is that knowing your measurements, which you need to know for sewing, it's just like knowing how much flour needs to be in a cake. There's no such thing as a good amount of flour or a bad amount. There's just an amount to make a nice cake. So if you want to make a dress and it needs to fit you, you need to know what your measurements are. But you can make, anyone can make a dress in any measurements. There's no morality in it at all. It's not good and bad. It's just we're covering one object with fabric.
You're also saying something very interesting, right? Which is that we have to know our measurements, right? They're really just numbers. They're geometry, as you say. And now we walk into your average store, or if you're ashamed to do that or you're uncomfortable doing that, so you're shopping online and you know these measurements. Big deal. Because knowing those measurements doesn't allow you to necessarily get the clothing that's going to fit you best. It's quite a wonderful thing that you've come up with this way, which we want to hear more about how to tailor clothing to any woman's size body, literally any size body. And we can't walk into a store and do that. It's my hope that one day women have a choice to have their clothing made or learn how to make their own in the way that you're doing, and also to have the option to walk into a store or some assortment of stores that isn't just patting itself on the shoulder because it has a section called plus size.
I mean, one thing I do think is very interesting, if you just look at the historical context, until the 1920s or 1930s, ready-to-wear clothes didn't exist. There was no such thing as a size 6. So if you got a dress in 1890, you didn't go and buy one in a size. Everyone's clothes were made for them, whether they made them or someone else did. So there was no judgment against what we were comparing ourselves, right? And then there was a standardization and there was mass industrialization of clothing. And the thing is, again, it's not evil. Clothing manufacturers have to choose something, right? They had to pick. Now, I will say it was very racist because it was entirely based on research of white nurses.
You bet.
So it was very racist. But they had to pick some combination of things. So they picked this combination, but a very, very tiny percent of women, regardless of your size, will actually fit in that. And in sewing, what it's called for us, it's called grading between sizes. And I actually wrote a book called Ahead of the Curve, which is all about learning to fit sewing patterns if you're plus size. So it starts at a size 12, goes to a 32. And it's the first thing I teach once we got the real basics. It's how to grade between sizes. So you are an 18 bust, you're a 20 waist, and you're a 14 hip. That's exactly me. Here's how you do it. And the funny thing is, it's actually very easy, but it's also kind of life-changing for people, because for me personally, once I started wearing clothes that fit me, there were two huge things that happened. The first one is I started wearing clothes that fit me, that were in fabrics I liked and made me look good. And a lot of people would comment that they thought I'd lost weight, which actually kind of annoyed me because I hate that that's a default comment. But the point is that they actually fit me. And it's very, previously I had to just pick a point in my body that would be fitting, and then everything else would be tight or loose. All of a sudden they fit me. And I felt so much more confident because I could wear the bold colors. And I discovered that there were things that I thought I couldn't, I'm doing inverted commas here, couldn't wear because someone with my body type couldn't wear them. It turned out to be 100% not true. The reason I couldn't wear a moto jacket is that no one made a moto jacket for size H boobs. The reason I couldn't wear a button-down shirt is because no one had made one in my size. Turns out, literally anyone can wear anything. So,
I mean, I have to say, Jenny, I think there will always be a market for the kind of thing that you're doing, right? Because first of all, you're not only creating clothes for people to be so much more comfortable in, you're also creating a way for them to learn how to do that for themselves, right? And then there'll be people like me who cannot sew a button to save their lives, and I'm proud of it. So I wish for the day, too, that at some point, the clothing industry will look to people like you to really understand how flexible sizing has to be. I mean, even now, if you go into any store and you think you are some size, whatever that is, you will not be the same size in 10 different manufacturers.
No.
And so a lot of, not just women, people go through a lot of mental machinations when they say, oh my God, I was that size in that. Why am I that size in that? And they make it mean a lot.
Yeah.
I will say, I can give a little insight. There are two fascinating facts on this very topic, which are a little counterintuitive as to why that is good, which I know it sounds weird, not feeling bad about it, but that it's different. The first thing, this isn't the good one, but just to understand, when manufacturers cut, say, a pair of jeans, they stack up 50 layers of denim on a table, and then they use what looks like a saw, like a hand saw, to go through and cut them out. They very rarely cut them at 90 degrees. And what that means is they're cutting out 50 size 12s. The top ones could be an inch smaller than the bottom ones when they're made up, because of how they're manufactured. So that's the first thing to bear in mind. Like, you can literally go back to J. Crew and buy your, online, buy your size 20 jeans the next time. They'll be a different size. You haven't actually changed size. Like, there's variability. But the second thing is, and I think this is a really interesting point, it's really good that sizing isn't consistent. The reason is, if, making it up, stores decided that a size 18 is 48, 38, 48, they just decided that's it, you would either fit in every single store or 0 stores. But in reality, every store has what's called a block. And the block is the average size of each range. So they usually have like one that's about a size 6 or 8, and then one that's about like a size 16. And they make a lot of decisions about what the proportions of this block are. And it isn't just bust, waist, hip. It's also like your shoulder width and your like crotch depth, things like that. And they all do it slightly differently. And the good news about that is that it's possible that you will be very close to one of them, right? But we actually don't want everything to be identical, because then you would never find anything that fit you, which when I first heard that, I was like, this is blowing my mind a bit, but it's actually a really interesting, I think, thought.
It's so valuable to hear this. And, I'm thinking about the folks that Nina and I see so often, right? Who live in a world that is so size defined.
Yeah.
And so it just adds to the weight stigma. It adds to people having evidence about how bad and wrong larger people must be, how slovenly they must be, how lazy they must be, because, this is their punishment by not being able to find the clothing that they would love to wear, no matter what size they are. Yeah.
Jenny, you're giving us so many good words that support body neutrality, right? Like, this is just geometry. This is 80% of women who don't fit into the mold. This is a variety of sizes. This is 1-inch differentiation. It just starts to break away the idea of a good body and a bad body.
Yeah.
Right? A body that fits or a body that doesn't. And so the work that you're doing around patterns is really working on internal patterns and beliefs of how a woman really sees herself.
Yeah.
And how she walks in the world.
And we've honestly heard that a lot. Like, for me, I mean, look, it happened to me personally, right? Like, when I learned to fit these clothes, it was a massive step forward in like my body image. Huge step forward, like to the point that like I remember vividly that a Scottish newspaper ran a story about me, and it had a full page picture of me in a swimsuit that they'd taken without permission, but whatever, it's fine, off my blog. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, cool, that's nice, isn't it? And then I thought a few days later, 5 years ago, I would have been devastated by that. That a newspaper printed a picture of me in a swimsuit, I would have been devastated. And I would have been like looking at my body. But now I was like, no, I was just like, cool. That swimsuit looks awesome on me. Isn't it a nice photo? I look really happy. Cool that I'm in this newspaper. And it was a real like moment of realization for me. In my previous life, I used to work a lot with models. They don't look like models. When you meet them in reality, they don't look like that. And I always say, like, my pictures, my jokers, I could be on the side of a bus. I'm not like a massively gorgeous person, but you put all that stuff around me and put me in clothes I like, and I'm happy and like just confident. I look great. And so that's been a huge shift for me. And to your point, Nina, like we hear this all the time. So we get feedback, and it's the best bit of my job, honestly, about people saying that it literally has changed their lives, our sewing patterns and my books, which it sounds hyperbolic, but I've now met people who sometimes like burst into tears and stuff, but they're like, I thought I was ugly and horrible. And then
Yes.
I made your whatever dress, and I was like the belle of the ball, and everyone was like, wow, look at you. We had one woman who said her literally the whole path of her life changed, which was crazy. She was very depressed and having a very hard time. And now she literally has a punk hairstyle. I mean, she was like kind of quiet before, a punk hairstyle, and is like on the internet constantly, like showing off all these amazing outfits. And what's interesting is I think sometimes when I tell people what I do, it sounds superficial, right? Like I work in fashion and in clothes, and it's like, But I think what they don't realize or they don't fully think is like the extent to which clothes affect people's confidence. And it makes sense. Like if you had to wear a trash bag all day, you wouldn't feel good about yourself. And especially, and I'll say,
And by the way, and then by the way, that would not be comfortable if you're going through menopause. Let me just say, it would be very sweaty.
Very sweaty. And the other thing, Jenny, to your point though, is clients talk to me all the time about their relationship with their closet.
Mhm.
They open their closet and then it's like their clothes are yelling at them and demeaning them and making them feel like they are terrible humans. Imagine, right? You open your closet and all of your clothes are singing to you about how gorgeous you are. That's a very different way to start your day. It makes perfect sense to me that people would be coming to you and saying, oh my gosh, my whole reality has changed because I opened my closet and my closet says to me, you're awesome.
Yeah.
You're perfect as you are in all of your humanity.
The joke that I make is that it's like taking back the means of production, right? So it's a bit Marxist. But the analogy is that imagine all your life, you could only eat in one restaurant. But by the way, you're also gluten-free. And there are 4 things on this menu you can eat. And your whole life, you just eat these 4 things again and again and again. It's like kind of dispiriting. And then one day, someone teaches you how to cook. And now you have an infinite amount of food you can eat, and it's all gluten-free. And that's what it's like to me. It's like today, if I try and go down to the Prudential Mall and buy a dress for an event, I can tell you right now, I'd have zero luck. Like I wouldn't fit in a single thing. And if I was lucky, I'd find one thing, but I wouldn't find options. I wouldn't be able to like experiment with fashion and how I feel. Nothing. I was so restricted. And now the fabric shop, like, is the potential, right? You fit in, every person fits in everything in the fabric shop. You just have to buy enough of it.
So we're talking to Jenny Rushmore from Cashmerette. Jenny, I have a question. Do you get a lot of inquiries from trans folks? Because one of the things that I hear a lot in our practice is that as folks are transitioning in some way, their bodies may not really fit the size of the kind of clothing they now want to wear. And so I'm imagining, that this would be a godsend if one has the ability to really create clothing that fits with one's identity.
Absolutely. So there is a very excitable, enthusiastic online sewing community. So these days, mostly on Instagram, but in the past it was blogs. I know there's a lot on YouTube. And there are so many different kind of like flavors of people, right, within it, because there's like the retro people who do rockabilly. There's the like very chic minimalist people. There are people who are sewing because no clothes come in their size at all, right? Like you hit a certain size, like you actually can't buy clothes in stores, and you're making underwear because you can't buy underwear. So there are people in that bucket. And then there are people who are just like non-conforming in any number of ways, right? Maybe like they're much shorter or taller than average. Maybe they're gender non-conforming or they're trans. Like all of a sudden, again, it's like, it's up to you. You have to have the basic skills. So there's a certain level of privilege in it.
Well, that's the whole damage of diet culture, isn't it? Right? That we're all taught at some point our bodies should be changed, should be different, should be a certain size, look a certain way. I mean, this really beats the heck out of that, because what you're really saying is, look, your body is exactly what it is in the moment. It can't be anything other than what it is in the moment. That's the definition of acceptance. And by the way, enjoy it, have fun, look however you like to look.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful message. It's an extraordinary journey that you've been on, and a very courageous one, I have to say, Jenny, because a lot of people sit around over a cup of coffee and have great ideas. They don't then create necessarily businesses and books. And so it really speaks to your commitment, your tenacity, your ingenuity. And so, I really applaud the whole project. Once again, we're talking to Jenny Rushmore from Cashmerette.
And
Is there anything else that we should know?
Jenny, I have one last question for you before we ask you how people can reach you, which is, what would you say to your younger self who is struggling?
My goodness, that makes me feel a bit emotional, to be honest, because, I really was struck. First of all, I'd suggest learning to sew before the age of 30. I think if I had learned to sew when I was much, much younger, I would have been in a better place. I think also, goodness, I just needed affirmation. And I went to a Lizzo concert. I realize at the moment she's got some difficult things going on, but I went to a Lizzo concert when she was in Boston. And I started weeping, like sobbing, like in the first 10 minutes. I feel slightly teary thinking about it. I started sobbing. And I was like, why am I sobbing? And Lizzo. And I was like, if this had existed when I was 13, my whole life would have been different. Because every person on that stage, apart from the DJ at the back, every single woman was fat, looked amazing, was wearing amazing clothes, was really cool and confident. So I think, if I could tell my 15-year-old self, how many years? Goodness. In 30 years' time, you're going to be watching this woman on TV who's just fat and no one gives a, she's fine. She's beautiful. Right. She's confident. And it's going to be much, much, much better. I will tell you, I thought for a long time that me being fat was a secret and that no one could tell. And that if I just didn't acknowledge it, and if I just bought clothes that were too small for me, that no one would ever know. I truly kind of felt like that. And through the process of launching Cashmerette, it almost felt like I came out. It almost felt like I was saying, I'm I use the word fat as a neutral descriptor for myself. It's like saying, I'm fat. But you know what? Also, I used to always be I'm the biggest person in the room. And it also was no, I'm not. I know lots of people, bigger and smaller, who all look amazing. Who am I to turn around and be oh, I'm a 16. I'll never look nice. That's rubbish. Look at this woman over here. She's a 28. She looks unbelievable. Look at this person over there. It totally changed things.
You're reminding me of a great movie called The Help. And there's a scene when there's this maybe 3-year-old, 4-year-old, and she's being told by her very, very, very wise nanny, who is a woman of color. She's actually the maid. I apologize. And she said to her, she's trying to teach her, because she figures out that her mother is all about appearance. And she tells her over and over the same thing every day. And she has her repeat it. She says, you is kind, you is smart, you is important. So imagine if that's the message all the time.
And,
the rest
as we were discussing before, I'm the parent of a 4-year-old who, as it happens, appears to be kind of a naturally thinner body type than I am. And she came home from school and mentioned there's this boy in my class and he's quite fat, mummy. He's got a big fat tummy and a big fat bum. And it was really odd, but I was almost excited because it was this amazing opportunity that didn't happen to me when I was little, to be yeah, that's right. He's got a big body, hasn't he? And that other girl, she's got a really tiny body, hasn't she? Some people are tall and some people, and I've got a squishy tummy and you don't really. And there's just lots of people, isn't there? I said, And, maybe one day someone might be nasty to him about that. But what would you say to that? And she's like, well, I would say, don't be nasty to my friend. It's okay to have a big tummy. It's okay to have a small tummy. And I was like, if I can keep her in this space, if I can keep her in this world, I will have done one good thing at least.
Yeah. It doesn't matter. You changed her life in that moment.
Yeah, completely.
She will never forget that conversation. That conversation will be challenged everywhere she goes, but it's a message that she keeps getting from you. That's not to say that we now need to throw every mother under the bus who has not given that message. But what we are saying is, what a wonderful, wonderful insight for you to have for her. And what a wonderful work that you're doing. It is an utter delight to have you on our program with us and really talk honestly about your story, about the clothing that you're creating, about the way that you're facilitating other people making their own clothing, no matter what their body size. Let me say that again, no matter what one's body size, one can wear whatever they want and look in any way they would like to look. And we're just so grateful to have you with us.
Jenny, I'm glad I met you in the bar.
Yeah, really.
Would you share how people can learn more about you and your business and how folks can stay in touch with you?
Absolutely. So everything is Cashmerette. So you can go to cashmerette.com, which is CASHMERETTE.com. That's our website. We have sewing patterns. We have online classes. We have a membership club that's really popular with lots and lots of interaction and help to sew your own clothes. I'm on Instagram at Cashmerette. That's the big social media thing for us. Yeah. And then I also have one book that's out and one book that's coming out next month. So my book that's already out is called Ahead of the Curve. It's for people who can already sew, and it's all about learning to fit the patterns. So if you make something in a 60 and you try it on and it doesn't fit, and then you throw it in the trash and you think, I'm never doing this again, this is the book for you.
So glad you joined us on this episode of Body Peace.
Stay connected as we continue exploring what it means to live in your body with more ease, trust, and care by subscribing to Body Peace on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you listen.
Be sure to visit us at bodypeacepodcast.com for special bonus content for those on our mailing list.